Mr. Gru! Dr. Nafadio, what are you doing here? I have no idea, because I want to see you, Mr. Gru, because I need to tell you something very important. Something's going on. It's very serious. Dr. Nafadio, what is it something serious is about? Well, Mr. Gru, please. Well, Mr. Gru, because Show PVS 101 has just seen a brand new movie on Netflix called Rebel Moon Part 2, because remember I told you about when you tried to steal the moon back in your villain days, during your time during the first movie, when you mentioned you were trying to steal the Rebel Moon Part 1, but this time it's worse than Part 1. It's called Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver. Oh, yeah, I remember that time. Man, Rebel Moon Part 1, the Child of Failure. Ugh, I really hate Rebel Moon Part 1. But they made a Part 2 on Netflix? No way, nope. I am not going to watch another boring movie. Because I check on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie have a 12%, which is even worse, lower than Part 1, even lower than my new movie, Despicable Me 4. I hope Sean PVS 101 wasn't that bored or wasn't torturous than last time. I hope it's not even worse. Actually, Mr. Gru, Sean PVS 101 just watched it right now and he despised this movie. He loathed this movie with a burning passion. He was beyond bored. Sit through a 2-hour snooze fest, Mr. Gru, because according to Sean's experience, he was so bored and so cringe how awful this movie is on Netflix, Gru. It makes cuties look like the first Despicable Me movie, how boring and awful this movie is, Gru. Right now, Show PVS 101 is going to tear Rebel Moon Part 2 a new one, and he's come here right now to rant the living crap out of this movie. Sean, come here.
Hey, Dr. Nafario. Hi, Gru. I'm officially here right now because I'm going to tear Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, like a new one, because after I watched this movie on Netflix for the first time, how awful, horrible this movie is, and I'm going to rant the living crap how horrendous this piece of crap is, Dr. Nafario.
Okay, Sean PVS 101, you got this, my boy. I have faith in you. How horrible Rebel Moon Part 2 is. It is so boring that Zack Snyder just don't give a crap to his audience. He just want to make slow motion action scenes look lame. You got this, Sean. I have faith in you, my boy. Just like with Gru. So yeah, Sean PVS 101, I got you back. If you feel very angry and very miserable, while ranting on this movie how bad it is, just go. If you feel angry and stressed about it while making this video, remember, Sean, go do something else when you feel angry and stressed out.
Thank you, Dr. Nafario. I appreciate it for your support towards me. So yeah, my name is Sean, aka Sean PVS 101's Movie Productions. I got this. I can rant the living crap how horrible and god-awful Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, can be. So yeah, Mr. Gru and Dr. Nafario, I got this. I'm just gonna reuse my Super Sam scream levels to tear this movie apart. Here we go, Mr. Gru and Nafario. It's time to rant on Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver. And let's do this!
You got this, Sean. I believe in you. That's right, Sean. You got this. I have faith in you. Mr. Sean PVS 101. You are my favorite fan of me and from the Despicable Saga because you got this, Sean. Enjoy tearing down Rebel Moon Part 2, Sean. You got this, Sean. Enjoy the video.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. So yeah, let's do this. Hello, superheroes and supervillains. It's your friend Sean PVS 101. Welcome back to a brand new video on my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing very well recently. And oh boy, today's brand new video on my YouTube channel, I'm going to make something very fun on my YouTube channel. Oh boy. Today's brand new video on my YouTube channel, I'm gonna make something exciting and a lot of fun. Today is a brand new movie rant. I'm going to rant the living crap on. And what new movie rant I'm going to rant on is a new movie I saw on Netflix. Yep. What movie I just saw on Netflix for the first time. I watched in my room for like 2 hours, feeling bored, feeling cringe how horrendous and god-awful this movie is. You know what I'm talking about. That movie I'm going to rant on is none other than Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not gonna call Rebel Moon Part 2 The Scargiver. I'm calling it Rebel Moon Part 2 The Crap Giver. That's right. I'm calling this movie Rebel Moon Part 2 The Crap Giver because this movie is a gigantic piece of crap. This movie was released on Netflix of this year of 2024 in April, and this movie is directed by Zack Snyder, the director of 300, Watchmen, which those few movies I kind of enjoyed. The same director of that owl movie, I forgot his name, the Rise of the Guardians, the Great Owl Guhu. He directed Sucker Punch, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, and his director's cut of Justice League. And also he directed the first part of Rebel Moon, The Child of Failure. The first part of Rebel Moon, he directed it. And so the plot for Rebel Moon Part 2, The Crap Giver, it takes place right after the events of the first Rebel Moon movie called... It takes place after the events of the first Rebel movie left off, after the events of the climax, when Kara is trying to take down General Atticus after the events of the first one. In this movie, General Atticus survived during the aftermath of the last movie, Rebel Moon Part 1, The Child of Failure. In this movie, General Atticus is one to get revenge on Kara and her rebel friends because Kara and the gang go back to her village, her hometown village, when everyone is excited to see her. She brought new heroes ready to take down the Empire. And then they're ready to have a plan because of the general members of the Empire told the villagers because the General Atticus has survived during the climax of the first movie because General Atticus wants to get revenge on the heroes because it's supposed to be like Empire Strikes Back, but worse. But anyways, General Atticus and his army want to get revenge on the villagers because the villagers are planning a big battle against the Empire so the heroes, Kara and the heroes, are trying to chop all the weeds down because they're creating bunkers and banners, like some protective base because of the Empire-ness. And then they're ready for a big battle. It's now up with Kara and her rebel friends are ready to take down General Atticus' evil empire and save the galaxy or whatever. And that's the plot for this movie. Yep, that's the plot to this stupid frickin' movie. So, after I watch Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, aka the Crap Giver. So after I watch Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, for the first time on Netflix, what do you think about this movie after I watch it? Here I describe this movie. Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, aka Rebel Moon Part 2, the Crap Giver, is an abomination and god-awful sequel to Rebel Moon Part 1, the Child of Failure on Netflix, because this movie makes the first Rebel Moon movie even worse than after I watch it. It is horrible! Oh my goodness. This is even worse than I witnessed. Oh my god. I hate Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver. It is this bad. Oh my goodness. I have never seen a Zack Snyder movie this awful. Yeah, this movie is worse than Man of Steel. It's worse than Sucker Punch. It's worse than Batman vs. Superman. It is worse than Batman vs. Superman. It is worse than the first Rebel Moon movie. Yeah, these movies make Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Sucker Punch, and even the first Rebel movie look like written by the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. That's how bad this movie is. This movie makes Snyder's worst movies look like a Spider-Verse movie. That's how awful this movie is. Like, seriously, this movie is so boring and dragged. It is so bland and so boring. Like, I really hate everything about Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver. It makes the first Rebel Moon movie look even worse. While I hate Rebel Moon Part 1, it is still awful, but Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver, is as bad as Part 1, if not worse. Yeah, it is even worse. Oh my god, I despise Rebel Moon Part 2. It is awful. Oh my god, I have never seen this movie that angers me and bores me how crap this frickin' movie is. So, does it deserve some positives? Nope. That's right, I have no positives for Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver. But I had to choose one. Tiny positives is some of the nice visual camera shots by Zack Snyder. I'll admit some of the nice shots of the movie can be nice to look at, but that's my only positive. The rest of the movie, I cannot give any positives to Rebel Moon Part 2, and it's that bad. So yeah, let's go tear down this piece of crap of a movie. So yeah, what went wrong with Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver? It's the story. The story is so boring, hollow, and a big, jumbled mess. My biggest problem for Rebel Moon's Part 2's writing is the storytelling is so boring. Like, seriously, Zack Snyder and Netflix, what's wrong with you making this story and the script so poorly written and boring? Like, I was not invested with the story or the characters because the characters are so poorly written and so one-dimensional. Like, I really do not care the characters' arc, where they're coming from, because some of the characters are so boring and very one-dimensional. I do not care about Kara. I do not care about the love interest. I just don't care about her rebel friends. Like, I don't care about any of these characters. None of these characters are so fleshed out. They felt like written by a boring wooden mannequin. Yeah, even mannequins make better acting and better characters than these characters in Rebel Moon Part 2. And the script is so bad. I really hate the writing because, well, I just really cannot stand the writing for Rebel Moon Part 2, how god-awful the story can be, because, look, I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder. I just don't care about Zack Snyder. He seems a bit overrated, but I'm not going after Zack Snyder as a person, because Zack Snyder seems like a nice person in real life, but I'll admit I do kind of like Zack Snyder's camera shots, some of his movies, but my only biggest problem is Zack Snyder is not a good story director, because I find his writings in some of his movies boring and very one-dimensional. Like, for example, I really do not like Man of Steel. I hated Batman vs. Superman so much. I hated Rebel Moon Part 1, and I despise this movie, Rebel Moon Part 2, The Crap Giver. But his writing and storytelling in this movie is no exception. I hated everything about the writing and storytelling. I was not invested. I was not invested on the hero's motivations. I was not invested on the main villain's motivations. None of these characters' motivations are not well written or fleshed out. They seem so boring and so meaningless. Like, I was not invested. I just want something fun, exciting, and just energized, like some of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy by James Gunn, because at least the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy by James Gunn, you feel for their characters, you feel for their arcs, where they're coming from, especially with Peter Quill and Rocket's backstory. I can emotionally relate to them. Same thing with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, which at least the characters in the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, I can relate to those characters I want. But as for the characters in the Rebel Moon movies like Part 1 and Part 2, I don't care about those characters. The characters are so boring. Like, Jesus crackers, those characters are so bland. Like, I just really don't find the characters not that interesting. Like, I don't care about Kara's character. I find Kara's character so bland, boring, and even hopeless because she has no character development. I don't care about her character arc because I find her so bland and very boring. And even when she's trying to take down General Atticus's evil army, which I don't find that interesting or invested. I was beyond bored. I just want the whole movie to end. Same thing with her love interest, which I don't find the love interest character interesting. I find him very bland and boring. Same thing with the other characters. I just don't give a crap on. None of these characters are interesting. Like, I just don't care about their backstory because I find their backstory to be very poorly written and very, very boring. Because the backstory is involved on slow motion, which we'll get to later. But honestly, none of these characters have clear motivation. I just don't care about those characters. So yeah, I really despise the writing and storytelling, how bad this movie is, because it is so horribly written and so terribly executed. I was not invested how awful Rebel Moon Part 2, the Scargiver's writing can be. Like, say will about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. If you like it or not, which I like the sequel trilogy, but they're not perfect. They have some flaws to it, but say will about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. At least the Star Wars sequel trilogy tried to tell a story. At least they tried to have some character developments like Rey, Finn, Poe, even Kylo Ren in the trilogy. At least I can invest in those characters in the sequel trilogy. But as for the characters in the Rebel Moon franchise, I just don't care. I find the characters so boring and hopeless. None of these characters are so interesting in Rebel Moon, and even the villagers people, I just don't care about. I just think they're very bland and boring as well. Even the freaking robot character with antlers, I don't care about, because the antler character robot named Jimmy pops every scene when the robot character is watching over the heroes do something. I don't care about the character of Jimmy either. But as for the visual effects, while I do appreciate of Zack Snyder's nice camera shots of the visuals in the awful Rebel Moon movies, but as for the actual visuals itself, they look horrible. Like, Jesus crackers, what is wrong with the visuals in Rebel Moon, the Scargiver? The visual effects look horrible. Like, seriously, for a Netflix movie, they look cheap and lazy. Like, I don't care about the world building of Rebel Moon. Like, in this Rebel Moon universe, we see the village people. I find Kara's village hometown look very generic. I find the General Atticus's evil ship look very generic. We've seen this before in the Star Wars franchise with the Star Destroyer in the Star Wars franchise, and even some of the green screen visuals background looks so horrendously awful. Like, I was not invested in. I find the visuals in Rebel Moon Part 1 and in this movie Rebel Moon Part 2 look so visually boring. Like, I just really hated the visuals, how terrible it is. I'm sorry, people. I just really hate the visuals in Rebel Moon Part 2, how dull the visuals are. And even the action sequences are even worse. The action sequences, wow, they look like crap. Like, I have never seen those action sequences this bad for a 2024 movie. Like, Jesus crackers, they look awful. Like, I don't find some of the gun lasers or the fight sequences that cool. I was not a fan of it. They're too much slow motion, which the slow motion makes this so boring. Like, Zack Snyder needs to make some action scenes this cool without any slow motion. It makes it so dull and boring. Like, I was not a fan when characters jump when some parts during an explosion. I'm not a fan when this cool looking lady with lightsabers slicing those guards down with her katanas, which I don't care about that action sequences. None of the action sequences aren't that good. I'm sorry, all the action sequences suck really bad. I just really hate everything about Rebel Moon Part 2 because this movie is so awful, and it makes the first one look even worse because there are so many stupid moments, which I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but there's a lot of moments that makes the first Rebel Moon movie look worse. Like, there's some moments when Kara explains about her backstory, like when she is trying to explain to her love interest about why she wants to, like, protect the king and queen and the princesses from the evil empire, and when we see the king and queen is feeling confused about what's going on, where's the throne room, but then we see these like random like servants are trying to assassinate the royal family, and then we see those people and then wearing these black bags playing those violin music, and then we see this guy, this unknown character, weird character, is trying to kill the king and queen and the princess, and then Kara is trying to save them, but then the beard guy is like, do it, kill them now! And then Kara is trying to shoot the princess, and then she glows and dies, and the beard guy is like, what have you done, Kara? Murderer! I find freaking stupid. That's how horrible this scene is. Like, when I first saw this scene, I was like, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen. It is this bad. Oh my god, this scene is so stupid. And there's another stupid scene I hate, is the climax. Like, during the boring final battle, when the character is, like, trying to, like, defeat the villain, and then the villain, General Atticus, is trying to take down Kara, like, during when the ship goes down to the ground, and then we see when then General Atticus is trying to choke on Kara, and then Kara is like, come on, Kara, wake up, look at me, Then Kara was like, I find this climax so stupid. Yeah, this has got to be the stupidest and dumbest climax I've seen in 2024. This climax sucked really bad, and also the ending really sucks. Like, I wasn't not invested towards the ending when Kara's about to cry because her boyfriend died. Oh no, my boyfriend's dead. I have nothing to do with this movie. Yeah, what a piece of crap climax this movie is. And also the main villain, General Atticus. General Atticus is one of the worst movie villains of 2024. General Atticus is such an awful, horribly written villain that he makes Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor from BVS Dawn of Justice looks like a well-written villain. That's how awful this villain is in Rebel Moon Part 2, because General Atticus is such an abomination villain. I really hate everything about this character, because this general wasn't that threatening. I find this general character look like a discounted Cillian Murphy. That's right. General Atticus from the Rebel Moon movies looked like a discounted Cillian Murphy. Oppenheimer. That's right. They kind of look similar to each other. So yeah, I hated General Atticus from Rebel Moon Part 2. He is such a god-awful villain and one of the worst movie villains of 2024. Maxime Lamont is a written better villain than him.
That's right, I'm a better villain than General Atticus from those Rebel Moon movies, which at least Maxime Lamont, aka me, which I'm a much better villain than General Atticus from Rebel Moon Part 2, which Maxime Lamont will take him down.
So yeah, I have nothing to say towards Rebel Moon Part 2. Overall, I despise everything about Rebel Moon Part 2, the crap giver. It makes the first Rebel Moon movie look even worse. I hate everything about this movie. I am officially done with the Rebel Moon series, Rebel Moon franchise. I am not going to see the director's cut of these two movies made by Zack Snyder. I am officially done. I can't stand these movies on Netflix. I am never going to watch them ever again. No way. Overall, I hate everything about this movie. Story, horrible. Action sequences, horrible. Visuals, horrible. Tone, horrible. Everything about this movie's horrible. Overall, I give Rebel Moon Part 2, the crap giver, a 1 out of 10. I give this movie a 1 out of 10 because this movie is awful. Thank goodness my suffering is over. I am not going to watch those Rebel Moon movies ever again on Netflix. Hey, Dr. Nefario, I finally tear this movie apart like a new one I just told you about.
Way to go, Sean PVS 101, my dear boy. I am so proud of you. You rant the living crap on Rebel Moon Part 2. I am so proud of you, Sean. So after you watch and rant on Rebel Moon Part 2, I hope you review something positive to cheer you up after you witness something terrible. Sean PVS 101.
I will, Dr. Nefario. I will watch something much better than Rebel Moon Part 2. Thanks for the support, by the way, Dr. Nefario.
You're very welcome, Sean PVS 101 Movies Productions, anytime.
Well, that's it for my video on Rebel Moon Part 2, the Crapgiver rant. I hope you really enjoyed this video. Keep a like and subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. Comment down below with this video. Did you love it or hate it? Share your opinions. Comments down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video one day. And get totally wicked!